This morning, I'm making granola. Granola is something that I think people maybe take for granted as a product that you can make at home much cheaper and much cleaner than you can get in the stores. You know, a lot of granola bars, granola cereals in the stores are actually pretty junky if you look at the ingredients list. They're pretty long, come with a host of refined ingredients in them, but it doesn't have to be that way. And the beauty of making your own is, one, it's super, super simple. It's really easy. You only need 10-15 minutes of time to mix it up, and then about a half an hour to dry it or cook it. So, it goes together really easy, but when you're making your own, you can control it as much or as little as you want. So I won't say that my granola is exactly the same every time I make it. Sometimes it depends on the ingredients that I have left around in the house. Like for instance, today I had a couple of different types of nuts left over from baking products. So it actually has sliced almonds and pecans in here. Where, technically the recipe just calls for almonds, but obviously that's an easy tweak, and whatever you've got or whatever you like is what you should put in it. So this is one of the ways that I like to look for different ways to use up ingredients, reduce food waste, use those nuts before they get stale or forgotten in the cabinet. It's something that I had left over from a cake, and this was an awesome way to use it. Nuts are crazy expensive too, so being able to use them up while they're still good is a good thing. So basically, rolled oats are your main ingredient in it, and truthfully, you could make a granola that basically was seasoned rolled oats if you wanted to, but most of us like a little bit more in our granola mix. So it's your basic ingredients are the oats, some oil, which helps crisp it up and brown it up, and also helps keeps things from sticking too much. A sweetening agent, which you could leave out if you didn't want to use a sweetener. Typically, I use honey. Maple syrup's another good one. And today I'm actually experimenting with molasses. Why? Well, my husband happens to love molasses. I like it too. It is a kind of a forgotten sweetener. I think it's not quite as sweet because I do think it has that little bit of what to me comes off as maybe a little bitter. But personal choice. But all of those are good options. Agave syrup, if that's what you're into, would be a good one too. And other than that, we have some nuts in there, usually some wheat germ. You can do shredded coconut. I'm not a coconut fan, so I don't. Some other good things to put in there, sunflower seeds. And then I do have some brown sugar in here, which, again, if you're trying to get away from more of the refined sugars, you could skip that. A little vanilla, cinnamon for flavoring, and then there is a little bit of salt. Also something that you could easily leave out, and I have many times done it without that if I'm just kind of winging it and going from there. And then in the end, not so much now, but in the end after you bake or dry it, you could add some dried fruit. So raisins are a good option. If you have anything dehydrated in your pantry, like I have some dehydrated strawberries in there, cranberries, all sorts of options, chopped up apricots. Really the sky's the limit on what you can add that way. So basically you're just mixing up those all your ingredients until they're about even. You can see I've got kind of a clump that clumped up a little with the molasses here. I'm not worried about that because I'm going to put this in the oven. That's going to melt, and I am going to stir it a couple of times on the way through. So then it goes in a single layer onto your sheet pan. I like to line them with parchment. Helps it keep a little more even when it bakes. Also, no sticking. If you don't have parchment paper, you probably do want to hit the pan with a little bit of like an olive oil baking spray or something. Nothing with flour in it, but just an oil spray or a light oil swipe on there to reduce sticking. But the other thing the parchment does is it makes it really easy to take this off the pan after it's cooled, put it in a jar for storage and use. So that's it. Now this is going in the oven at a low temperature, 300 degrees for about half an hour, stirring about every 10 minutes to keep it even, keeps, your sides from having too dark on the sides and overcooking there, makes everything bake nice and even. And then it comes out, just make sure you cool it all the way out before you store it. You don't want any condensation or moisture getting in your containers, which can happen if you're putting it in warm. Other option is to do this in a dehydrator, and it actually comes out really beautifully out of a dehydrator. Nice and even, nothing overcooks. If you're doing it in a dehydrator, again, a single layer, you obviously want to use either parchment or like the Silpat mats, something solid in there. Don't try and do this just on a fine mesh screen or anything like that. Definitely do it on something solid, but the parchment will work in there too. And then you're going to dehydrate that at 145 for about 3 hours. So there you have it. You know, again, granola, it's much easier to make than we think. A heck of a lot cheaper. You know, I've got a 8-cup batch of granola here for not too much money. And this is much cleaner, healthier, and cheaper than anything I could buy at this store. So hope this helps, and I hope you experiment on your own and enjoy your homemade granola.